in the heart of the bustling metropolis, there existed a man named Arthur Finch, living in a city where skyscrapers reached for the heavens. His existence was an unexamined routine, a monotonous cycle of waking, working, and sleeping. At first glance, one might have mistaken him for a typical office worker, dutifully serving time for a paycheck. But upon closer inspection, the cracks in his composure would reveal a man who was deeply discontented. Arthur was a man like many others, easily blend into the crowd. She was a dedicated, professional, and enthusiastic individual. Eleanor tried hard to guide Arthur, assigning him suitable tasks, encouraging him to attend training courses, and pressure mounted on Eleanor. She knew that if this continued, the company would face serious trouble. After numerous warnings and private meetings yielded no results, Eleanor had to make the most difficult decision of her career, and even personally mentoring him step by step. But all our efforts were in vain. His savings dwindled, interview calls became fewer, then stopped altogether. Bills piled up, rent was due. Arthur began to feel anxious, then desperate. He sat on an old, rickety park bench, his blonde hair now messy and unkempt, his face haggard with sunken eyes. His clothes were wrinkled and worn. Beside him was a skinny stray dog, looking just as pathetic. His briefcase lay open, empty save for a few scattered papers. A cardboard box overflowed with miscellaneous items, perhaps all that remained of his previous life. The text read, "Out of work," a harsh confirmation of his decline. An elderly man, with white hair and a kind smile, walked by and stopped. He looked at Arthur and Lucky with compassionate eyes. He was used to pitying glances or dismissive words. He had rejected many jobs he considered unworthy, but now even those jobs were no longer appearing. "We have a program to help people who are struggling. Would you like to try?" He gradually sold off his expensive belongings to make ends meet. He ate instant noodles, drank tap water, and spent his days wandering in the park. The stray dog, whom he named Lucky, became his only friend. His pride was wounded, but despair was at its peak. Lucky didn't judge, asking for nothing but a bit of food and some affection. With Lucky, Arthur was no longer a failure, but simply his friend. Arthur would just offer an indifferent smile, promise to change, and then revert to his old habits. He recalled Eleanor's words, the advice from friends he had ignored. He remembered the opportunities he had let slip away, the projects he had neglected. He regretted his indifference, his laziness, and his nonchalant attitude. He realized that he hadn't appreciated what he had until it was gone. He saw Eleanor as an annoying manager, not a respectable colleague. He thought Eleanor was too serious, too overly concerned with everything. "It's just work," he often muttered to himself. "Why bother so much?" He felt ashamed to face old acquaintances, terrified to look into the future. He realized that having no interest in work didn't just mean not loving his job, but not loving his own life. He had lost his self-worth, lost the meaning of existence, nor stand out in any particular way. He realized that having no interest in work didn't just mean not loving his job, but not loving his own life. He had lost his self-worth, lost the meaning of existence. A multinational corporation specializing in financial consulting. He had vaguely guessed this would happen. In the first few days after being fired, Arthur enjoyed his freedom. He slept in until noon, spent hours playing games, watching movies, or wandering aimlessly through the city. He spent his savings lavishly, without thinking about the future. He believed that with his work experience, finding a new job wouldn't be too difficult. He signed the necessary papers with a calm expression, then packed his personal belongings into a cardboard box. As he walked out of the Global Solutions, Inc., but when recruiters asked about his reason for leaving his previous job, or asked him to elaborate on his achievements, Arthur stammered. He had nothing to say but clumsy lies and unconvincing excuses. The interviews quickly ended without any results. Building, he felt a strange sense of relief. No more pressure, no more boring meetings, no more difficult Eleanor. Finally free, he thought to himself. He vowed to find another job, an easier one, with less responsibility. Hating his alarm clock and the glaring sunlight through his window, he came to the office just to clock in, then spent hours browsing the internet, making personal calls, or simply staring at the screen without actually doing anything. Meetings became tortures. Projects became burdens. He always found ways to evade responsibility, pushing tasks onto colleagues or making excuses to avoid work. His salary wasn't bad, even quite generous compared to many. However, for Arthur, work was merely a means to sustain a lavish and aimless lifestyle. He enjoyed expansive dinners, designer clothes, and impulsive trips to places he didn't truly care about. Money bought him material comfort, but it couldn't fill the void in his soul. Yet it was in this ordinariness that his extraordinary journey began. Arthur's life was marked by a deep-rooted apathy. His slicked-back blonde hair and the perpetual faraway look in his blue eyes spoke of a mind that was elsewhere, a soul that was untethered to the present. His smirk, though charming, hinted at a silent discontent, feet propped on the desk, phone to his ear as if listening to a tedious tale, while a female colleague, likely his superior, looked at him with a mix of frustration and helplessness. The computer in front of him was dusty. Piles of disorganized documents stacked haphazardly. The large text below the image served as a declaration, "Have no interest in work." This was the portrait of Arthur Finch, a typical office worker, yet completely detached from his job, a simmering resentment towards a reality he seemed to find uninteresting. The first image that comes to mind when thinking of Arthur is him in his office. Arthur worked at Global Solutions, Inc. Each morning, Arthur struggled to wake up Eleanor Vance. The woman in the picture was Arthur's direct manager. As time passed, Arthur's blatant disregard for his responsibilities began to affect the team's performance. Projects stalled. Clients complained. One dreary Friday afternoon, Arthur received a call from Human Resources. He was fired. He wasn't exactly shocked. However, life doesn't always go according to Arthur's wishes. He started sending out resumes to dozens of companies. At first, he received a few interview calls. Time passed. A week turned into a month. A month turned into many months. The second image in the picture depicts Arthur after losing his job. Arthur now lived a precarious existence. During sleepless nights, Arthur reflected on his life. Regret gnawed at his soul. He felt ashamed to face old acquaintances, terrified to look into the future. Regret gnawed at his soul. One rainy afternoon, as Arthur huddled on the park bench, Lucky snuggled into his lap for warmth. "Young man," he said in a warm voice, "you seem to be in trouble." Arthur looked up, his eyes filled with suspicion. "Yes," Arthur quietly replied, his voice hoarse. "I'm Mr. Henderson," the man said. "I run a community center nearby." Arthur hesitated.